So good morning and welcome back to Why I Do What I Do. And today I'm privileged to have one of the UAE's leading sales gurus, Mr. Ramez Helou, who is also a very good friend of mine. Ramez, welcome, mate.
Hello, Phil. How are you doing?
Yeah, super. We've been floating around each other for many, many years now. And I think what I love about you is I always think of sales and relationship marketing as the kind of 1-2 punch to helping a business be successful. So Ramez, again, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so as always, what I'd love to know really is, a little bit about what you do, but more importantly, why you do it. What drives you above and beyond just money?
It all started for me, Phil, when I moved from Lebanon to the US. And I was French educated. So English was not my first, or was not a natural language for me. I was on the shy side, only would raise my hand in class when asked. And whenever I spoke, I used to stutter many, many years ago. So at one point in time, I decided, you know what, I need to get a job. And I go out to find me an opportunity. I didn't know what I was actually looking for, but it just, came back home one day. I told my dad, I got a job as a marketing executive with an international marketing company. He looked at me, he goes, okay, son, what are you going to be selling? I looked back, I said, knives, kitchen knife. As a matter of fact, this is what I need. This is the type of kitchen knives that I sold, Cutco. And some of my friends would make fun of me, would say, hey, you look sharp today. At first, I was really, I was not a good salesman. I would say I was frustrated. I came to my manager. I said, Tom, I don't think this knife job is for me. And he looked at me. He goes, Ramez, I really appreciate you sharing this with me. I was like, why is he appreciating that? Because I'm going to quit. And he looked at me. He said, Ramez, the reason why you're here, number one, is because I feel that you care. I was like, And he goes, you feel on the inside you can do this much, but now you're only doing that much, meaning a lot less than what I can. And he goes, Ramez, the gap between where you are and where you want to go is known as frustration. Are you going to let frustration make the best out of you, or are you going to make the best out of frustration? When he said that to me, there was a sign behind his desk, and it said, winners never quit and quitters never win. And deep inside of me, I said, I am not a quitter. I walk out on the way out. I say, okay, I'll give it another shot. I bump into one of the top reps. Her name is Melissa Moyer. And I said, Melissa, could you give me the secrets for success, sales success? She goes, Ramez, you got to do 3 things, Ramez. I was like, what? I'll take some notes. She goes, Ramez, number 1 is you got to read the books on sales. Now, there was a voice inside of me saying, I don't like reading. What's number 2? She goes, Ramez, you got to listen to audio programs in your car. Here I said, Melissa, look, I am 19 years of age. I listen to cool music in my car, okay? Not people talking. What's number 3? She goes, Ramez, you got to invest in yourself and you got to go to the summer conference coming up. I said, Melissa, I asked you how I can make money, not spend money. And she gave me a one-liner that pretty much changed my life. And she said, yeah, Ramez, there's this very famous guy by the name of Benjamin Franklin. Long time ago, he said, I was like, what did he say? He said, take whatever coins you got in your pocket and invest them in your mind, because your mind will fill your pockets with gold. Mm-hmm. And little did I know, but there's a library on both sides. I'm surrounded in about a 200 square foot office that I currently occupy. And sincerely, this is the books. The books have become my life. And I am, as a result of what I've read and what's inside of my 2 ears. And something started happening, Phil. This timid, maybe uncomfortable young man started to actually achieving success. And there was this reputation. People in the office would say, look, if Ramez, not from the country, doesn't speak very good English, and doesn't know a lot of people, if he can sell knives, right? Um, Before you quit, go talk with him, see what he's doing. And time again, they would send me sales professionals that were, again, students like myself, not doing very well. And I'd sit with them, I'd watch their presentation, and I could say, okay, I can see possibly where you could be doing, where something is missing. Do you really want to know how you can turn things around? And I'd say, well, change this and change that and give it a try. People would say, oh, is that easy? It's like, well, give it a try. And time, this people will always come back and say thank you. But this one particular time, the first time this happened, let me tell you how it went. I was speaking at a sales meeting, Phil, and my manager said, go up and share what you're doing. He gave me 20 minutes. I spoke for 5. It's like just stood up and sat down again. But the next day at the sales meeting, a young woman or a young sales rep comes and she goes, Ramez, look, I've just made my first sale. And she's handing me her invoice. I was like, well, good job. She's like, no, look. And she shoves it in my face. I had to do a double take. I take it back, I read. And she had sold more than $1,000 worth of these knives. And that one invoice was more than what I had ever sold in one order. And I look at her confused. I said, geez, what did you do? She looked at me and she said, I did exactly what you told me to do yesterday. And it was at that moment that I had this warm feeling on the inside, Phil, that got me addicted to sharing what I know with others. And I discovered that the more I was giving what I knew what to do, the more I was sharing it, the more I was becoming a master at it. And I spent 15 years in the knife business after that. And what I would do is I would actually be recruiting and training sales professionals. I've built a multi-million-dollar business in Puerto Rico and Costa Rica. And I had at one point in time 300 sales reps. And all I did is go out and share my ideas with them. And every time I'd speak, people say, Ramez, when you speak, you inspire us. Have you thought of becoming a speaker? And the idea started to grow. And that's how I joined Unilever Food Solutions. I was their sales training manager for Asia, Africa, and Middle East. I traveled to more than 30 plus countries. And I would simply go, like I've always done, parachute into a country with a challenge, go observe, see what's going on, create a certain gap analysis, and then know how to support the sales leaders with their sales teams and drive success. Time and time, I've been given challenges, countries like South Africa growing at 30%, but the business needed South Africa to grow at 45% because they had more potential. How do you go down and talk with a team already producing, succeeding, and make them see the potential? Well, I was blessed to go down and again, I would say, grab the attention, win the minds and hearts of the people and show them that they can actually do a lot more than what they were doing. And countries like the UAE, which was a losing business. And when I took over the head of that business in 2007, 2008 was my first year as the head of that business. And we turned that business around. Me and my team, I would say, put the foundations in place and drove it. And again, I love to see people's smiles. People think that people get a job in sales because they hope to find a job elsewhere later on. However, when people realize that unless they commit to the profession of selling, which basically to me, to sell, this very well, we both have a similar background in terms of we love to serve, we love to help others. And in order to get what I want, I must help someone get what they want first. That's Zig Ziglar. And that has been one of the core principles and values. Look, I don't mind helping. I think because of the amount of time I helped, I learned how to become even a better coach, a better consultant, listen, observe, and support others. I'd even say today, even when I coach clients over Zoom, I'm able to, they're like surprised of how I pick up things through their tonality, through the way they look, through the way, again, it's selling It's the art of communicating. I guess I said the word art, but today there is a science behind that. And when you combine the two, you really have a very, very valuable skill set.
So here's a question for you. I remember many years ago, I was offered a job, and they didn't call me a salesperson. I was called an account manager, but ultimately I was a salesperson, and I had this really deep disgust, I suppose, at the thought that I'd been, because I had a degree, and in fact I had a master's, and I was like being asked to, in my mind, pick up a suitcase, knock on doors. And I just thought it was really horrible that I was being asked to do this. I don't know if it was a fear of rejection or a fear of thinking that I wasn't valued or what it was, but there was something deep inside me that was like, I'm not a salesperson. This is a horrible thing. I mean, 20 years down the line, a bit like you said, I've started to realize that, real sales is a different dynamic, but I don't want to spoil your answer to this. What would you say to someone that had that opportunity to go into sales? And sometimes we get offered a job and there's no other options out there, but we get offered this job. But maybe something's holding you back, some sort of perception of what sales is. What would your message be to them?
I think, when to succeed in selling, Phil, you need high level of integrity. You need high level of discipline. You need high level of empathy, high level of drive. I think selling is a great way to live life. It's learning the skills of selling are only going to help us have a more fulfilled life, because we learn to get out of our comfort zone. We learn to face our fears with action. We learn to realize, things, no failure is final unless you really call it final. So I would simply say, the moment because of the our predecessors in sales have spoiled it for us, have people taken advantage. I think the laws of influence by Robert Cialdini, these laws can be utilized in an ethical way or an unethical way. I think same can happen when you're selling. You can either be selling in an ethical way or an unethical way. And it's unfortunate that previously, when we've been exposed to the myths and the examples of some unethical behavior, it does put the sales profession in an unprivileged profession. Yet today, I would have never been able. My wife asked me, Ramez, what's your secret to success in sales? I looked at her. I said, honesty. She said, what? I said, honesty. She's like, I would never have thought this would come out of your mouth, and you're the sales expert, the sales guru. Now, why would she say that? Is because the perception of sales in her mind was altered. And anyway, she goes, that answer really, made me a little bit interested to see how far is this guy gonna go? But the good news is I asked her to marry me later, and she said yes.
The best close ever.
Well, that's the natural close. It was a natural thing. And,
brilliant.
Absolutely.
Okay, mate. Well, look, just in terms of, because we've been going on for a while, and obviously this is so much powerful information. What would you say, particularly at the moment, if you can say in like 20 seconds or less, what at the moment would you say has been your most successful product or change? I mean, we're sort of still in the COVID thing at the moment as we're recording this, and it isn't going away anywhere soon. What would you say is the one thing that you've been able to offer to the market that's really made the most difference for you and for them?
The one thing is what I call the coaching of sales behavior and building of successful sales habits. Everything we do in life, Phil, if we have to think about it, every time you drive a car, you have to go back to zero. It's like, oh my God, I'm too nervous, right? You'd never learn how to drive a car. And unfortunately, many people, when they are in front of customers, every time they're having an adventure with words, every time, oh my God, what do I say? How do I do it? And they're like really nervous. Now, again, I'm generalizing, and just to give a simple scenario, I'd say today, There's lots. I mean, I'm training and developing Fortune 500 organizations, and to hear their salespeople tell me something like, "Oh my God, what you just said," the simple principle of, in order to sell, you have to, what I call, you have to plan. So you do your research, you identify customer needs. The more you plan and you sell, identify needs, the less you're going to negotiate. And many of these Fortune 500 companies, because they have big brands, they forget about the planning and selling. They go in, they say, "Let me just sell you my product." And they just want to go in a push type of a behavior. Now, yes, when you are a market leader, many of the players or many of the customers will succumb to your strength. But that creates a certain bitter feeling in someone's mouth that the moment a new competitor comes, they'll just want to get rid of you. And just seeing them realizing that it goes back to this principle: to sell is to serve. And I'll tell you, to change this behavior and to help them to live it out and get clear results, get clear ROI. A 600,000 dirham deal or a 600,000 dirham Saudi riyal, yearly contract as a result of one little subtle change. I mean, that is clear ROI. And being there with that client, supporting them, helping them to build those new behaviors. So now they have them to reap and reap and reap for the rest of the year and years to come.
Okay, so without asking you to do it all again, what sort of showed up for me there was, particularly at this time, it's really not expecting your product to sell for you. It's for really engaging the habits of sales and generating opportunities based on a conversation and listening to the client rather than just doing what you've always done. And I think there's loads of companies that have been rather complacent for a long time, and now over the last couple of years they've really had to step up. So that's how I read what you said.
COVID has surfaced a lot of the imperfections in the way people were selling before. Just because I can drive a car does not mean I can drive a Formula One car and win a race. Yeah, just because someone has sold in the past doesn't mean that when the change in the environment happens, they just keep using the same behaviors and skill. Actually, it is gonna backfire. So I think like selling is a mental sport. The more people practice, the more people get, how do professional athletes get better? Well, they practice their sports. How do dentists, how do heart surgeons get better? Well, they put in the hours. Well, how do sales professionals get better? Well, this is when they realize there are some foundations that need to be supported. And I work with clients, with teams to help build these foundations and help them sustain it after my time with them is gone.
I think before we move on to the last one, just to sort of acknowledge what you were saying there, I worked for a number of companies in sales. Even though I said that I didn't enjoy it earlier on, I ended up doing it. And in each of those companies, from recruitment to exhibition stand sales to real estate, I ended up as a top salesperson. But the interesting thing is I'd never done sales training. And I remember attending one of your programs. Oh gosh, I mean, maybe, oh my gosh, Ramez, 8-9 years ago now. And I remember walking out thinking, why did nobody tell me this before? And even though I've been the top salesperson, I didn't know what I didn't know. And I can only imagine how much more I would have sold if someone had invested in me as an employee years before. But of course, those companies didn't invest in training. So which meant that they as companies were earning less. And it's kind of that, continual circle. So anyway, look, mate, the most important question, and I know everyone's waiting for this one. If you were stuck on a desert island, and with the exception of your family, who would you want to be stuck with?
Stuck. I don't like to be stuck.
Okay, so maybe that's the answer coming on.
I think I would be planning to have the team to get out of the island, all of us together. So I would, first of all, I would enjoy the island. I lived in Puerto Rico for 10 years, and but that is not a desert island. So I would say I would have an engineer, I would have a doctor, I would have a priest. I would have.
Okay, so I'm going to stop you now because you're selling and getting more value for your money. So one person, one person, who would you have?
Just one person.
Just one. Who would it be?
That's a difficult one.
It could be for interest. It could be to help you live. It could be to have a party. And you can be a little bit silly as well.
Well, that person, geez, one person. I would say, and it cannot be family or friends. You said it can.
It could be friends.
So
it could be friends. Yeah. It's just if we all feel like we should say our wife or husband, that kind of makes every single answer the same. So I'm trying to keep that one off the table.
Well, look, one person that I would love to have with me is a dear friend of mine. Is a dear friend of mine called Bashir. He's a childhood friend, and he's really somebody that we get along very well, and together we will be able to plan our exit out of the island.
Fantastic. And is he the gentleman you used to do a mastermind with, or is that a different one?
No, he's a childhood friend. He's an architect, so I would say. So he does have.
You could build a really nice sort of cabin on the island, at least, if you couldn't leave.
We can build a cabin. And we get along very well. So we complement each other. Yeah.
Brilliant. Ramez, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for sharing what drives you, and see everyone soon. See you soon, buddy. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Stay safe.